afternoon, good morning, it's afternoon, everyone. My name is Gladstone Grant. I lead the Microsoft Technology Centers, and what we do, we really are an incubation hub across Canada. We've got a number of locations that help our customers and partners to accelerate their digital transformation with pretty much anything that Microsoft offers to businesses. We also engage with universities, so I look forward to seeing a number of you coming out to see what we have around innovation. So I'm going to jump on in and talk about how our AI platform is really helping some of the customers that you saw right here to ultimately accelerate the transformation. I think there's a friend from Deloitte that said, we're truly in the fourth industrial revolution. You know, you think of the work that's being done in technology today, it's analogous to the other three. Human beings, probably about 200 years ago, we were pretty much all farmers. That's all we did. And we got to the point where we couldn't farm fast enough. We couldn't ship our crops across the country fast enough. And so we needed to innovate. And we took water, we heated up, we turned it to steam, and we created a steam engine. At that point, we could start doing things that we couldn't before. The mechanization and the production of goods really accelerated the human race. And then we created electricity. So we had light 24 hours. Productivity increased for human beings. And around 1969, IT and electronics took off. And now we could automate things that we couldn't before. We could further power things that we couldn't. And that really started what we're really in right now, which is the middle of the fourth industrial revolution. And it's highly, highly disruptive. You know, if you think about some of the industries that's been disrupted out there, pretty much every industry you could think of is being disrupted. You know, think of our lives as consumers and some of the things that we do. How many folks here use Uber? Yeah? Think of what Uber has done. The taxi industry has been around for hundreds of years. And out of nowhere, they came in, and they're now the largest taxi company across the world. If you add up all the cars that are out there, yet today, they don't really own one taxi. They do own some cars, self-driving cars, and we could talk about that in the future, because that's a part of AI. But certainly, they've disrupted an industry with the magic of technology. They provide a technology solution that ultimately matches drivers with passengers. Airbnb. Have you guys used Airbnb yet as students? Yeah, you do? Think about what they've done to disrupt the hotel industry. Again, largest hotel accommodation provider, yet not one room they own today. Again, it's a digital solution that they bring. And there's a whole bunch of different stories in industry that's happening out there. And at the heart of this, really, when you think about what's driving it, is all these technologies, of which AI is a key component of that. Now, heard it said before by the panel, there's no AI without data. Data is really the oxygen to AI. To do machine learning, that we'll talk about in a second, we'll show you some examples. Takes that data, ultimately, to learn from, to be able to predict the future. And AI includes a whole bunch of different areas. It includes things like cognitive services. It includes autonomous self-driving cars. You know, I got 3 young kids, and my 2 youngest one, I predict they will never, ever drive a car because it will be too expensive to go out and get insurance because it's going to be a lot safer. Cars aren't distracted. It's just data. You know, it's really a machine that's moving, that's responding to data. It sees a traffic sign, it reacts. It sees something that's dangerous, it reacts. And so that's a future that we live in. It's also robotics. You think about manufacturing, utilities, operations. That's being transformed. These machines are becoming smarter that are on production lines. They're self-healing. We've got real-life examples today of where customers are doing that. AI is truly going to transform what we're doing. As we talk to our customers and partners across the world, we really see 4 opportunities for customers to leverage and take advantage of artificial intelligence in this digital transformation. The first is, how do you leverage AI and all the technologies associated with that to better engage with your end customers? Your customers are your most important asset. In fact, a lot of analysts are saying the customer experience that you provide will be much more important to businesses than their product or their price. Now think about that. Customer experience be the most important thing. And I think about my personal life, and it's so true. With 3 young kids, it's very hard to get out to do anything. It's hard to go to the mall to shop. So I shop online a lot. And when I go shopping, I know that I'm probably be able to drive to Walmart and get a deal for $2 better than I could online. But a convenience in being able to buy that and know that the next day it's at my house. That's what I'm looking for as a customer. And so businesses have to think about how do they provide personalized services, how do they leverage all that data that they collect about their customers to provide them with the services that they need to make their lives better. So that's the first opportunity. How do you engage your customers? The second one is the employees that work within the organizations. How do you provide them the right insights at the right time to make the right decisions to take their business to the next level? The third is really around optimizing operations. In any business, there's always business processes that can be optimized. How do you leverage AI to streamline, reinvent business processes, things that you've done manually over the years? How do you leverage AI and the data that exists to be able to streamline that through? And finally, it's about how do you transform your services? How do you transform the products that you sell to your customers? How do you leverage that new data to provide whatever product that you have always provided as a service? How do you come up with new revenue models, new business models and revenue streams that you can go to market with? You know, I'm talking a lot about AI here, but what I want to do is I want to show you AI in action. I want to show you some demos of some of the real-life solutions that our customers are using today. As I talked about before, AI really goes across every industry. You see a number of the examples up here. We're going to show you in financial services what intelligent customer care could look like. In retail, customers using to optimize inventory, to provide the right SKUs in the right stores at the right time to maximize productivity. In manufacturing, this is really a cool thing that's happening in manufacturing. As you know, in manufacturing, anything in that whole value chain that breaks is very costly. So how do you leverage things like IoT and sensors that matter to your business to connect and securely send data up into the cloud and do things like predictive maintenance so you can know before that piece of that part breaks, you know before it's going to break, you can send a technician out to solve that problem to prevent things from happening. Predictive maintenance is huge in manufacturing. Remotely monitoring all these different systems that you have out there to be able to make sense of it. In healthcare, you know, the idea of today we go to the doctor and we have a symptom and we have to go to the doctor, that's a thing of the past, thanks to AI. We'll all be wearing sensors pretty soon that will monitor key aspects. It'll know our history, it'll know our health history, it'll monitor things. And ultimately, our doctor will be reaching out to us ahead of time to say, hey, here's a recommendation what you need to do ahead of time. You know, maybe if you're diabetic, take some more insulin. If you've got any condition, you may need to come in. You know, when you think of the health system across the world, one of the things that is a big problem is readmissions to hospitals. It's costly, it's risky, so how do you prevent that from happening? Clinical analytics is changing the world. In government, there's so many examples. I'm going to show you one that impacts us all. It's about public safety. I'm going to demo that to you right here. And then in education, you think about education being so important to the future of the human race. How do you leverage AI to do things like understanding the dropout rates? Why do people drop out of high school, universities, et cetera? And what can you do to learn from that data and ultimately predict before someone is going to drop out that, in fact, they may be at risk? And how do you address that? And it's being used across the world. But let me jump on in and show you a demo here of AI in action. And I'm going to start in the financial services because I think all of us at this point have a bank account in some way, shape, or form. I know my bank's here represented today. And so let me see here. I'm going to actually do a little demo. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with, let me just flip this here. I'm going to use my phone. This is going to be fun doing this with having to hold a mic, but we'll improvise here. So I'm going to take the persona right now of I'm a customer of a bank. And I'm going to show how AI is being used at me today. And this is a real-life solution available that a lot of banks across the world are using. The demo here is not a real bank, actually. It's Very Bank, but it's based on a solution that's created. So I'm going to just go into my application here. Imagine I'm at an event, a soccer game. I love soccer. I play soccer once a week now. Used to play a lot more before. But I decided I want to log in. I try to find my code. Can you guys see that there? Yeah? So, of course, multi-factor authentication. I see it's 3141. You guys don't try to hack into my system here. So I'm just going to log in. And as I log into my, my bank, I see, oh, wow, it's offered me a mortgage for 1.99%. This is kind of cool. I never told the bank I was looking for a mortgage. And I also see there's an option here to chat with Faraday, a live chat. That's amazing. I'm at the game. It's kind of noisy right now. I just got married. My wife just went to get some beverages for us to refill. And wow, I could be productive right now. So I go ahead and I click on Faraday chatbot, and it's going to come back, and it's going to ask me a question. It's going to say, hey, thanks for your interest. I can get your rate for 1.99. Do you still work for FutureCheck? In fact, no, I don't. I work for a new company. I got a job. Guess where I'm working now? The best AI company, Microsoft. I was going to have you guys answer that, but just in case you say something else, I will I'll remove this here for a second. I had to cut that in before. I'll go director at Microsoft. This is live here, guys. Right in the cloud at Microsoft, so we'll add that in. All right? So the next thing it's going to ask me then is, hey, it's going to validate a few things about me to say, hey, is your salary still $3,500? In fact, no. When I went to Microsoft, I got a promotion, and now I'm up to $4,000. Here we go, and I'm going to submit that in. And the next thing it's going to do now is saying, hey, oh, wow, this is great, because I was looking to buy a condo for about $300,000. It's going to give me a mortgage for $250,000. This is great. I would like to discuss an offer. Yes, absolutely, I do. This is Bank and Transform. It's giving me all the information I need. And do I want a home visit or branch visit? I'll go for a branch visit. And I want the first one, first thing tomorrow morning. Yes, at Canary Wharf branch. I'm going to select that one, and then we're going to go for the timing at 10 o'clock. All right, beautiful. There we go. This individual, whoever's talking to me, I don't know who it is, but I love them because they give me that convenience of what I want to do. The other thing it gives me is, hey, there's an advisor. Imagine the integration into the advisor at the bank that you're going to meet. So I know Marco. I actually had met him once. I'm going to choose him of the different advisors that are there. And it confirms my email address. Yes, it is. And the next thing it's going to do now is going to try to allow me to book that appointment directly. So that's an integration of a bot, which is AI, directly into this Office 365 to be booked with the customer. It says, thank you, your appointment's been booked. It even gives me a map. Do I have any other questions? No. All right, so what did you see there? What you saw here was a simple solution, leveraging artificial intelligence, machine learning, knowing some things that happened in my life. I got married. I opened a joint bank account with my wife. And so as a result, it's now figured out the next best offer for me is a mortgage. And it turns out I was looking for a mortgage. It also integrates into the systems of the bank, so you know exactly who you're meeting. You're not showing up and trying to figure out who is it that you're engaged with, et cetera. That's what it's like from a customer's perspective. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you what the experience is going to look like when you get to a bank. So I'm just going to flip over here. We're doing a live demo as we speak. I'm just going to put on a PC screen, and we're going to move it to the next demo right here and move forward. All right. Give me 1 second. Just going to scroll on down and show you what happens when I get into the actual branch. Okay. So I'm going to change roles right now. I'm now going to be the greeter at the bank. And so I move forward here, and I log in. I'm running a greeter application. This application is a Windows 10 universal application, and as the greeter in the bank, I've got full visibility into everything that's going on. Thanks to facial recognition, I could see right here that Archie Andrews is now entered the bank, and I can get information about all the different solutions and tools and campaigns that are happening. So when I go up and talk to someone in the branch, they're well educated about what's happening, and we could ultimately drive to a top line. Now, the next thing I want to do here is I want to actually go in and walk up to Andrew. Archie Andrews, as a customer, wants to feel that personal touch. So I walk up to him and I say, hey, Archie, it's great to see you here. I see that you have a number of different accounts. You've got different solutions and products with us. But ultimately, what I want to do right now is I want to take care of compliance. A lot of banks, compliance is a big deal for them. So how do you make sure that you are addressing compliance as you sit there? And the reason why there's a quality check that's required is that the individual changed their title, and so you want to validate. You have them right there. What you want to do now is simply just go on down and send them a nice little text to their phone. They give you back the code. You say, okay, what code did you get? They give you the code back. You send it to them, and it's 5683. You type that in. And bingo, you have now validated. A lot of banks have this idea around know your customer. It's a compliance check. They have to make sure any changes that go through as a greeter, you could validate that. Now, if you continue on, the next step now that I'm going to do is a mortgage advisor. So how can a mortgage advisor ultimately use this solution to get the mortgage quickly and the customer in and out within 5 minutes? So let me jump in. As a mortgage advisor, I start off in my Outlook calendar. I see I've got this appointment today. I see Archie's here to see me. I can see all the different solutions and products that Archie's using today right here in my Dynamics 365 CRM portal. I can see all the products that they have. I can see which products I could upsell. I can see the channels that they use. They're not using mobile too much as they should, etc. But I could also get additional information that relates to artificial intelligence. One of the elusive things for a lot of banks is having that 360 view of the customer. And with the data that you're collecting about your customers, both internal and external, you can now have that end-to-end view. And so as I start here, I see the first thing I notice, I want to click on the fact that he now is integrated into LinkedIn. So when you meet that customer, before you meet them, you want to find out as much as you can about them so that when you sit down and have a conversation, you can find the things that are in common. It's a great icebreaker. With Microsoft buying LinkedIn, as you guys probably know, now we have that integration into our solutions and additional data that we can bring to the table. So I can see here we went to school together, the same university. We have a lot of friends in common. But ultimately, I want to get back to his insights. And if I go here, I could see the first thing I want to understand, what are those relationships within the bank? Who else banks with him? From a loyalty perspective, how connected is it? Which other of his employees also work? But I'm also interested in his household. So I go ahead and I click, and I can see here within his household, he just got married, no kids, so likely he'll be able to afford the mortgage that we're going to give him. We also see his sister is with the bank, so you get additional information there too about loyalty. I also want to understand his goals. Does he have enough money? Has he saved up enough to be able to get this mortgage? And I do see here, he had a target of $60,000. Now he's got $52,000 that he was able to save. So that with the $250 that we'll give him, he'll be able to get that mortgage. All right, but here's where machine learning comes in. Because machine learning is around how do you take that data and start predicting things about the future. So when I hit on this predictions tab, first thing I could see, we've detected over his lifetime a number of different key lifetime events. We've seen here that he got relocated, he had an address change, he did some financing, purchased something at IKEA, he got married, which was a trigger point there, opened a joint account, he's got a new job. So these are things that happen that we've detected, but we're now predicting in the future that he will go on vacation, 80% probability that he'll go on vacation, mortgage applications likely coming, and a bunch of different things that we're doing. But I also notice over here, his credit card is at risk of churn. Again, most customers care about losing their end customers. So what can you do to reduce churn? So I want to double click here, and again with machine learning, you can see there's a high probability of credit churn. And as I go even further, I can see exactly why that's happening. Month over month, the number of transactions that he's using on a credit card is going down. That likely means that he's looking at the competitive bank. Likely means that he has got another credit card with a better rate. But AI doesn't stop there. It makes a suggested action on what you could do, the next best offer to keep that customer. You could give them cash back because they're likely going to want to do some renovations. You could waive the charges, and you could also give him another card so his wife could go use that. And it's as simple as that. That's what you do. Now, if you want to do the mortgage, simply what you do is you go back into the CRM portal. what you do up here in the past, for those who, I know some of you students, but if you bought a house already, you have to go in and sign all these documents. You've got to use pen. It's kind of old school. You got to wait for the person to go print the things out. It takes forever. What you need to do now is simply, with the integration of all these solutions that you have, you simply go in, integrate it with DocuSign, because DocuSign is transforming paper. They're leveraging kind of the Microsoft cloud to be able to do this in a secure way. Cybersecurity was mentioned before, a key part of this. And so what you do here is you go to DocuSign and you simply sign. It's as simple as that. That is Banking Transform. This is the world that we're in. This is a real solution that's being used across the world by a number of different banks. We got some public case studies that are up here. But it really transformed the experience of targeting your customer based on what they're looking for, the experience of ensuring that as you walk in the branch, you're leveraging facial recognition to identify your customers. You can do emotional analysis, sentiment analytics. And then as a mortgage advisor, it simply allows them to quickly get that mortgage signed. It allows, but not only that, you figure out what other products you could upsell them with or what other products you could use to leverage churn. This is AI in action being used here across the world. All right, I'm gonna give you another demo. Public safety, something that we should all care about. And what I'd like you to do is to think about how do you leverage AI and all the different data sources that are out there in a situation when the public is at risk. This example I'm gonna show is, again, another real solution being used by a number of police organizations across the world. And what this is a solution that was built up by Microsoft Services that takes all these different data sources and is able to be leveraged for a command center operation. So here I am. Imagine I was a sergeant in a command center, and we have access to this portal that's told me that, wow, we've got a report, a 911 report of an aggravated assault. An individual was just about to go in his car. Someone came up, hit him over the head. He fell down, stole his car keys, took the car, and drove away. Luckily, the store owner was able to identify that individual as Malcolm Watkins. He is a person who comes in there on a regular basis to buy cigarettes. So the store owner made that 911 call. We've captured that in this system. Now, oftentimes, when these type of things happen, you want to figure out, especially in this day and age, when the public is at risk, is there something that you can do? Is there elevated risk right here? And so with AI, you're able to leverage, figure out things like what other correlations exist out there between this individual. You can see here that, yes, he was actually on the terrorist watch list. So all of a sudden now you can start alerting all the different agencies to say, this is a much more serious impact for public safety, and how you respond to it is changed. You can see another data source, RMIS here, that shows there's information there. He also had a prior arrest. He's got a gun permit. This is high risk. And so now you can notify the right authorities to be able to address that. You also have access to a mugshot. Thanks to all these different systems, you can kind of see this individual. So now you can text it out to all the different officers out there, all the different individuals, to say, here, there's something that we could do to be able to address that. Now, in cities, there's a whole bunch of different license plate readers that are across all the cities. You see all these cameras? They're able to read, just like the 407 ETR, they have the ability to be able to read the pictures that are coming in or videos and actually do detection. This is cognitive services. Computer vision, the ability to be able to take any video and a text and an image and to be able to identify. So we've uploaded that into the license plate reader, and so now it's be able to catch that, yes, this 44 MAGA is actually the license plate of this particular victim. Not victim, sorry, the person who's perpetrated a crime. We also get another 911 call that the vehicle is traveling north on a 6th Street at dangerously high speed. And then next thing you do is you could get to see, leveraging machine learning, predicting within a 5-minute radius, where can this individual drive? So in this case, we can see that, yes, they can drive here, but there's something very, very concerning. There's a concert going on at a National Mall in Washington that we need to be careful about, because people are there, and so what can we do to alert all the authorities there to make sure this doesn't happen? So as we continue on here, we also notice that there's a tweet. So now you take in additional data, external data, unstructured data that's coming in, but you're to pick up that someone's saying just saw a white van. The guy was driving like a maniac, right? So now you could start saying, okay, what else is happening out there in Twitter sphere? You can see all the different Twitter spots where other folks are also tweeting here in red. External data sources are critical to making a decision about what to do next. We now see that there's a vehicle pursuit because we've identified the authorities. So there's a pursuit right now. The car has stopped. The suspect is fleeing from the vehicle. The suspect is fleeing on foot, heading north towards the National Mall. This is risky. We got to make sure we do something about it. We noticed there's a K9 unit around. There's a helicopter units around. We want to be able to address that. And yes, video analytics, again, through the video that's being collected from all these cameras, real time, you stream that into the cloud. You're able to do analytics on it to be able to identify, yes, there is a person that was identified. He's wearing a green coat, white shirt. You can get a picture of what that individual looks like in that. And now you can send to the right folks. The K9 team has gone in, captured today, make sure that everyone's safe, no one at all is impacted. That's the idea of taking all this different data from all these different data sources, collating it together, and then ultimately act to keep the public safe. You can think of all the situations out there that if they're using this, how much quickly we could react. And then in the past, what you would do is you'd have all these investigators, everyone involved would take lots of time to figure out exactly what's happening to create the reports. Now with the click of a button, with all the information that's being collected, because it's digitized, you could quickly create that report, send it off to the authorities. It can be used during the court system to be able to address that. Again, a real-life solution being used across the world, whether it's in Texas, in Atlanta, in Brazil, and this is the high-level architecture. It takes that data, it monitors and does alerting on it, it's able to correlate all the information, analytics on it, drive the different response out to all the various authorities, and then post-incident reporting. Real-life solutions being used today. So what is the platform that's created all of this? It's very simple. There's really three elements to this platform. There's AI services that we provide. There's a number of infrastructure components that we'll talk about. And then finally, it's a set of tools. And so at a high level, there's really three set of services that's provided. One is the idea of these cognitive services. So these services that allow machines to be able to see, hear, understand, interact, just like human beings do. And so what we've done is we've built out these cognitive services in an API format that we now store in the cloud. And as a developer, you simply just make a call, an API call into the cloud, and it provides you back with a response on what that is. So for example, facial recognition. You send a picture of that person's face, it identifies their face, it sends it back and says, yes, that person is Gladstone Grant, with a 90% confidence that it is. And then you can embed that in. If it comes back and it says it's only 10% confidence, then you decide you want to ignore that. You know, talking about Uber, one of the things that Uber had a problem with is assault with drivers. You know, when a driver picks you up, how do you really know that's a driver that ultimately is the one that's picking you up? And so they came to Microsoft and said, hey, how can we help with that? And we said, here's what we'll do. We'll take your driver app, and with literally 3 lines of code, we'll call out to this API in the cloud that validates with facial recognition that the driver that's logging in is actually a real person. And that's what we did. And ultimately, after they did that, it's a public case study. That's why I'm talking about it. You guys can go Bing it. Don't Google. Use Bing. Thought you guys, you can Google it. I use Google too. It's okay. And then ultimately, they've seen a decline in the number of assaults because of that simple thing. So that's cognitive services. Then there's a bot service. You saw as a banker how I ultimately used the little bot to be able to communicate with Faraday. You know, what Microsoft provides is a bot framework that allows you to quickly create a bot and deploy it into any channel that your customers are. That bot could be deployed to, in this case, a mobile phone, as you've seen. It could be on a web page. It could be in Slack if you use Slack. It could be in Facebook Messenger and Skype. Wherever it is, in Teams, whatever you use, you could quickly deploy. And then finally, sometimes you want to do your custom AI. You want to take the data that you have about your stakeholders, and you want to create your own machine learning experiments. And so we give you Azure Machine Learning Studio that allows you easily drag and drop, because our view of AI is we want to democratize it for every developer, every business, every person. And so, I'm not a developer anymore. I used to be back in my young career, but I can easily go in and drag and drop and create a machine learning model that ultimately will be leveraged against the data because the algorithms have been created for me. So that's the platform from services we provide. Of course, we provide the infrastructure. Many of you will go on to come up with new startups, if some of you aren't already doing that. And so you don't want to have to go out and build out this whole data center and all the different compute and data and everything that you need associated with that. You just go and leverage what's already there. So you get things like the databases that you need, whether it's for fast-moving data, you want Cosmos DB, or you want a SQL relationship database, or you want a data warehouse, or maybe a data lake to capture a bunch of different data, all the different options that we have. And then as you think about how do you do computation on that data, again, we provide the services to allow you to do that. The one I want to call out here is something called IoT Edge. IoT Edge is something that's happening very interesting now, where there's all these IoT devices that are out there that aren't always connected directly to the internet. So how do you make sure that you're running the models? How do you make sure that you're doing AI directly on those devices? Think of drones, right? If you think of, inspection of the highways that are out there, the Ministry of Transportation now or utilities, instead of sending out a person, they can now send out a drone to inspect the grid, inspect the transmissions line, and power utilities are doing that right now. So what they do, for example, is they'll figure out if something needs to be replaced by sending this drone out to just capture video of everything that they see. They look for rust, they look for algae, they look for calcium buildup, and that device is not connected to the cloud to do that processing. What you do is you do the IoT Edge that you essentially download a little bit of think of it as an OS, if you will, that's on that drone that ultimately is able to work on that model at that point in time. So very cool stuff, because as we think about where we're going in the future, is all these devices, IoT devices, will need to be able to run these AI models. And then, of course, we provide all the tools. Microsoft has always been a great company on developer tools, so whether you use Visual Studio or anything else, we provide all the tools that you could quickly create those solutions. Also, from a deep learning perspective, if today you're using open source, because we embrace and we love open source at Microsoft, that's a change. 20 years ago when I started Microsoft, you used to get emails that, hey, if you're running open source on your machine, you could be at the risk of being fired. Today, open source is a first-class citizen on the Microsoft platform, the Microsoft cloud. 40% of all VMs are running open source in Microsoft. So if you're using TensorFlow, if you're using Caffe, whatever it is that you're using, bring it, and we're more than happy to include you as a part of that. Okay? Now, I think you said I have, how many minutes do I have? I'll catch you guys up in time. 4 more minutes. All right. So I'm going to wrap this up in 4 more minutes. I do have some more slides, but why don't we do this? Instead of continuing, why don't we go to questions? Because I've talked a lot. So let's switch to questions and find out what's on your mind. What questions you guys have?
Thank you. So if a banker leaves, but the customer is there and they walk into the branch, somebody else steps in and they know that, hey, how did that sports game go that you attended? Because the banker inputted that the day before, right? So that's communication with the customer. And also, one thing I want to know, so this platform is amazing and everything, but a lot of times, we talked about earlier that there are only 16% of businesses that are using such platforms for data analytics and AI. What about the remaining, right? It's a known fact that you make money from 20% of your clients. What about the remaining 80%? And the fact is that many banks will not touch them right now. So if you have a new product or software or new idea that you want to finance, you have to go to angel investors. How do we amalgamate banking, like you have shown banking here, but the same banks will not go and finance those projects or new businesses or new ideas. But how do we do that? Because even for you guys, unless money talks, right? Like if the client doesn't have money, how are they going to pay you? So,
first of all, I love you, Nazir. I will take you with me wherever I go. That's a great case study about loving this platform, so thank you. You got a couple questions that I heard there from what you asked. The first is about our view of the adoption of the cloud and some of these solutions is maybe a little bit different from what was mentioned before. It's interesting, even before we had data centers here in Canada, one of the big banks actually decided that they would go to the cloud even before we had data centers. We have data centers 2+ years here in Canada. That bank is a public case study, I can tell you, was TD Bank. And TD Bank, when they decided that they wanted to move to the cloud, move all 96,000 of their users from an email messaging perspective over to the cloud, and we know there's sensitive data that sometimes is an email. The reason they decided that they wanted to move to the cloud is because of the question I think that you asked is around security. Because in the cloud, and cloud solutions like Microsoft's cloud solution, we're the most compliant cloud. The amount of certifications we have, ISO certification, CSA, SOC, national, regional, industry certifications. For the average company to be able to afford to go out and ultimately get that level of certification, it will cost them millions and millions of dollars. And so the global CIO, Jeff Henderson, he actually told us, because we had him at a cloud conference and he was going to be on stage, he sent us his presentation, and there's nothing around cost, because we knew that he was saving 50% cost around this, and there's nothing around cost. What he said was when he talked to the CEO of the bank, the most important thing for him was, one of the most important things around security, and Microsoft was in a better position to secure than they would, and so that's one of the reasons. So back to the point around financial services, pretty much every industry, they're adopting the cloud. Once they're on the cloud, they're much more familiar with it. It's a lot easier to adopt these solutions. Now, the second part of your solution, from a startup perspective, one of the things that we've been doing very heavily is investing to really help startups to be able to move forward. And what I'll do, actually, I'll fast forward to this particular slide right here that just gives us a little snippet of some of the things that we've been doing here to invest in helping that startup ecosystem, right? And so you can see the amount of $111 million we have invested at Microsoft into build the Canadian startup ecosystem. It means that we give credits to startups when they're early stages to be able to get on side and start building out these solutions in AI. We have Microsoft Ventures, who, depending on the solution that you're looking for, will look to be able to ultimately help you to get these solutions through. So there's a bunch of things that we're doing, but we're also enabling and working with the entire ecosystem to ensure that they know, because here's what we're learning. You see what happened in fintech, for example. It's startups that are ultimately driving this ecosystem. Oftentimes the more established enterprises, they're a bit more risk averse, to your point. And so how do we help our startups? How do we provide architectural help? How do we provide resources to help them to be able to take advantage of this great platform that we have to ultimately take it to the next level? And then oftentimes what happens is that the fintechs see what's happening, the financial companies see what's happening, and we know of examples where they've gone out and bought different fintechs with the innovation that's coming. So we're aware of that challenge, and what we're doing is we're working to invest with credits in the cloud. We'll have a Microsoft Ventures that's available that ultimately can help to also fund some of those. So that's what we're doing there.
A big round of applause for Gladstone Grant. What do we think?